Kaambo spoke about how crime is going down in data because police are not reporting crime, not because crime is decreasing. Vic Starsky asked questions concerning the city of Venus. President Diane then asked Kenneth to come up and speak. Kenneth Page, retired police sergeant and candidate for Assembly District 25, spoke about being in the military and serving in the NYPD. He spoke about the weakness of New York City penal laws. The people he would catch would just be released. He spoke out against tax dollars being spent on illegal immigrants rather than immigrants. He asked for people to vote for him in the Republican Party. Julie Milner, Democrat candidate for civil court judge, spoke about how she is running against the Democrat machine and how many Republicans have been unfairly kicked off the ballot. She stated that the Democratic Party ran a hit piece against her in Queens Eagle. She spoke about how judicial elections are party favorites to Democrat Party students. She stated that a lot of Democrats will flip and vote Republican in the next election. Stephen Weiner, Republican candidate for Queens Surrogate Court Judge, spoke about how the Circuit Court operates and how he has 25 years as a state attorney. He spoke about how his opponents have no experience in the Queens Surrogate Court. He stated that the court has been a Democratic stronghold that uses the power of the court to fund Democratic Party and county administrators. Gonzalo Gillan, candidate for the 15th Congressional District, spoke about growing up in the Bronx and serving in Iraq. He has worked with veterans nonprofit groups and is the vice chair of the Bronx Conservative Party. He has focused his efforts in the Conservative Party to fill legislative positions. He is running against Richie Torres. Dwayne Moore, candidate for State Assembly District 29, spoke about working as an English teacher and college counselor. He stated that he felt compelled to run because New York City is in decline. He spoke out against the city of Yes and the attack against single-family houses. He made calls to action to members to help get Republicans in office. Jonathan Rinaldi stated that he was upset about the actions of the county GOP refusing to support Republican candidates like himself and Danny Mayo. He then listed bills that Andrew Healy has sponsored that removed parental consent for children's medical procedures. He then spoke against the city of Yes. Brandon Castro, State Assembly District 30, spoke about how there were no Republican candidates in his district, and he believes that he must run so that politicians do not win unopposed. He stated that many Democrats are fed up with the Democratic Party and are now open to voting Republican, but we need to go out there and win over the vote. The Republican Party's greatest weakness is that Republican candidates have no presence, so voters don't consider Republican candidates. Steve Wang spoke about fueling China to come to America. He spoke about how America is cleaner and freer than China. He spoke about getting a green card and 2 years later becoming an American citizen. He then stated that he was moved to use his new citizenship to run for office. Juan Pagan, candidate for State Senate, District 11, spoke about running for office. Yes, I know. Since 2006, and the need for the older candidates to be role model for the younger candidates. He emphasized the need for members to support their local Republican candidates. David Abraham encouraged candidates and club members by referencing the Russian Revolution. Danny Mayo opened the floor to questions for the candidates. Club members asked about metal detectors in schools. Julie Miller spoke about her experience of metal detectors as a teacher and the amount of weapons that were confiscated. Stephen Weiner stated that metal detectors do not catch everything and that weapons are a system of broken homes. Way more echoed Stephen Weiner and stated that schools have become more expensive daycares instead of places of growth and maturity. The 50-50 raffle then commenced with the candidates pulling raffle tickets. The winners were Stephen Weiner, Steve Spear, David Sepiavili, Antonella Spaventa, and John Faulkner. Vic Starsky won the 50-50 prize, totaling $105. The meeting was then adjourned at 9:36 p.m.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Thank you.
Are there any corrections or comments on the minutes? Dave Abraham.
The correction I made about the Russian Revolution was not that I referenced it. I said that a small group of people that are very focused and dedicated can make an absolute difference in history.
We should modify that to district. Okay. Any other corrections, comments?
Yes,
Barbara?
correction, I'm running in Senate District 16, not 11.
So thank you very much. Any other corrections or comments? Okay. Seeing none, Anton. Okay. Excellent job, Isaiah, according to Anton. Okay, so for those two comments, changing Swan Senatorial District from 11th to 16th, and also to basically about the Russian Revolution comments that they may have made. With those modifications, any other corrections? So do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Okay, Anton so moves, and do I have a second? Second by James. James Schwatzman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Also opposed? The minutes have been adopted. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on now. Next item is basically old minutes. As you know, we'll be following up what's happening with the non-citizen voting. Currently, the lawsuit is still before the Court of Appeals. They haven't made any movement yet as of March of this year. The next old business will be following, which I'm sure all of you know, congestion pricing. It's a shocker that what Holcomb said, but keep in mind, it is not over. It's only a postponement. And machines are still there. And she can change her mind anytime she wants. Okay. So anyway, we'll certainly keep on top of that for you. Next item, okay, is going to talk. We're going to have some announcements. A very good announcement. Oh, I'm sorry, Kara, I forgot the financial report.
Okay. Am I gone now? I think it is. Okay, I'll get it from back here, if that's okay. The financial report. The current bank balance is $4,868.29, and we have 74 paid members. And as all of you know, every meeting is fundraising. So if you'd like to buy good tickets, right here. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Okay. Let's see, announcements, okay? We have a new club president for Sunnyside. He has been Marvin Jeffco for quite some time. He's going to be moving down to Florida soon, and the person that has taken over the Jackson Heights, Sunnyside, sort of a western section of Queens, is Mr. John Patrick Healy. I would like to introduce him, and please come up and say a few words.
First and foremost, I want to thank you, Daniel, for inviting me here. Privilege and honor to address this meeting. It's kind of strange. I just started getting politically active. I've been a registered Republican for 24 years now, dating back to when George W. Ran against the environmentalist celebrity Al Gore. Earlier, actually, before the primaries, I was at St. John's University. I was a student there. And most of my inner circle, social circle of friends that I was with weren't really there. And I just thought that I got a mail-in and to vote. And I registered Republican because at the time it was, I guess it wasn't really George Bush that I wanted. It was John McCain. I always had respect for combat veterans, and that's really it. It was just started from there. And of course, I voted for George Bush, and I've been registered Republican ever since then. I work in the Department of Buildings for New York City, and now in City Hall. I'm a revenue analyst there. I basically work directly under the Assistant Commissioner for Finance, and we have budget hearings a lot of times with the City Council for housing. Most of them made up of Democrats, and they do local laws that really affect building code. Everything that's going on in the city now. And a lot of them, surprisingly, are kind of in the pocket to a lot of the landlords and developers. So in terms of violations and building out on their inspections, there's a lot of handcuffing in our agency. Our commissioner, James Otto, was a New York City councilman from Staten Island. He's a part of the GOP. So a lot of these budget hearings, a lot of things that go on here, it's kind of, we're kind of hamstrung, and you have buildings that are falling down, facades coming down. I didn't realize how political it was when I took this position. I'm originally from Woodside, Queens. I live now in Jackson Heights. I've been there for 13 years. When I first moved to the neighborhood, it was very family oriented. I would say now it's not really conducive for a family. A lot of changes over the last several years. There are a lot of these illegal pot shops opening up, prostitution, migrants coming in now too. Really, God knows my heart. It's not against these people. I wouldn't blame them if they're told you can come here. They'll fund you, give you money, give you shelter, give you food. Who else would do it? But it's really our elected officials who have a responsibility to their constituency that are really failing us. And again, if you look at the New York City Council, if you look at the State Assembly, if you even look at the State Senate, it's overwhelming. Everyone knows this very well. I wanted to get involved more in the community, especially since recent years. I attended a community board in Jackson Heights. That meeting stayed, probably a couple times a year, and I sat there. They were talking more about the co-ops and the condo boards, and noise traffic, some quality of life issues, but nothing really like the real pressing issues. Street safety and crime, things like that. You have people up the avenue from me and not even far, like hopped up on, methamphetamine or fentanyl, and people being on the corners now. It's a big problem. Quality of life is really deteriorating. I felt I wanted to find some place in the community that's more like-minded individuals. For my parish in Woodside, I was introduced to someone through the Catholic War Veterans Post, and we had a combat veterans group here. The president here is also the president of the GOP. Daniel mentioned Mr. Marty Jeffcoat, that you probably already know. And that was just a few months ago. I attended a couple of meetings, and I said I wanted to get more involved. And said, if you're ready to step up, just one of a couple meetings ago, said abruptly that he was very passionate about it. Everything that's going on, and it's kind of a state of the community address. And he's leaving New York. He wants to go down to Florida. His kids are all grown up and out of school now, so he's making a move. There was a motion that he nominated me to be the next president. A lot of the people that I just really know, just started getting to know, second motion, and everyone was in favor. So it was all new to me. It's great. I'm grateful to be here today. I've been going around to a lot of the GOP meetings now, all over the other community groups for the night. Mayor Curtis Lee was talking, he's running there for mayor at the Ronald Reagan Republican Club in Astoria. Last night we had a speaker at Sunnyside GOP Club, Warren Spivak. He's an economist, an author, and a political activist. It was a great talk. I recommend it. And he's very interested. He goes around all the United States talking to Republican clubs and conservative groups on free market economics. He spoke a lot on capitalism, but also on free speech. And it was a very good talk because it's talking about a lot that's going on in Europe right now, how the European Union is moving more towards the center right. And a lot of the far right, or even, for example, in France, are getting a lot of popularity because the people are, same issues are going here with migration and how their governments are feeling that they're not really working for the people. It was a great talk, and you could see Freedom Warrior, his website, Warren Spivak. I would recommend you check it out. It's very good what he does. Anyway, I guess my time now is up. Yes, yeah, of course. Yeah, so we're it'll be before your meeting, the day before your meeting. We're the third Wednesday of every month. We're in Woodside, Queens. It's a Catholic War Veteran Post, St. Sebastian's. I'll give you the address there. It's 3946 61st Street. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Turn this over.
Thank you, John Healy with the Sunnyside GOP. Is it Sunnyside GOP Club or that's the official name? Great, I'm Ruben Cruz. I'm not your host. I'm just waiting for Daniel to come over here and say it.
Thanks. David Abraham wants to basically promote one of the candidates, a very important race, the surrogate court. Stephen Weiner is our candidate.
Everybody, good evening. First of all, Mr. Healy, I look personally forward to attending or visiting one of your club meetings. And anybody else here should go. It's like a brotherhood or a sisterhood. We should all be together. So I wanted to speak to you. I spoke last night to Anthony Nunziato, the chairman of the Queens GOP, and he told me that he's working on behalf of the 11 candidates, the GOP candidates in Queens right now. So, word of mouth is probably one of the most effective advertising. I know today everything is social media, that's discussed, but word of mouth, very important. So each one of us has the power to convince somebody to make a change in their life by telling them give them advice or find out what they think, or maybe sometimes helpful criticism. So I recommend that each and every one of us take it upon ourselves to tell our friends or our family or anybody to vote for the Republican candidates in this primary and this coming election in November. You gotta keep on telling everybody, you gotta tell them, you gotta tell your friends, you gotta tell your relatives. When you're breathing it all the time, like I tell people all the time, they should vote Republican. And sometimes it's, it gets a little bit, and I tell people I'm a former Democrat, but it really makes a difference. If you tell people that you used to vote Democrat and you're not a Democrat, or even people in this room, if you're a registered Democrat, I mean, it's fine, as long as the point is who you vote for. I have my own feelings about what we're gonna do in the future, but right now, I just wanna tell you, Stephen Weiner is running for Queens Surrogate Court. It's the only surrogate court, it's only one in Queens. It's notorious, Queens Surrogate Court as being one of the most delayed surrogate courts in the entire US. So Steve is a professional, he's a professional about surrogacy. He's a lawyer for wills and trusts and guardianship. He himself has an adult son who's disabled and takes care of him at home. It's his wife's son. When he got married to her, she had a son that was developing disabled. So he understands guardianship. So you got to tell your friends. That's going to be in November, but it's important really to vote for every Republican. Tell people we have to make a showing. We have to make a difference, and the only way to do it is by the ballot box. All right. Anyway, best wishes to you, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you in the future.
Thank you very much. Before we begin the speech, we want to talk about its focus group on Project Civica. Jamie Schwatzman would like to make the service that's available to anyone, really.
Hi, everybody. I want to help you with your speeches. There is a technique to speak, an upward inflection. Some might call it bullshit, but it's not. We have to know how to talk to people, look into their eyes and speak. We're becoming too solemn, but what we're defending is sacred, and that's different. And we have to start using the word sacred. Our freedom is sacred. It is fought for, it is sacrificed. And I want to help any of you for free. I don't want any money right now. These election laws and stuff about paying people. You can go and you can do a half-ass election and then pay yourself. I don't want anything on that. I want to help you with your speeches. I will give out my email. You give me your bullet points. We can talk on the phone. But what we're defending is sacred. It's not solemn. We're not apologizing for it. It is our God-given right. And we have to start using that language. Because the other side thinks that we're all a bunch of cells. That we can eliminate what we do just by killing it. I'm a pro-lifer because life is sacred. We have to start looking at the glimmer of people's eyes and understand that we're children of God, children of this country. And we have to start speaking to those people because I don't think they know what sacred is or they conceive it. But I want to help you with your speeches. I've been Sergeant of Arms for a year and a half now, and I've listened. And I'm a big talker. I love to talk. I'm not intelligent, I'm eloquent. I'm not. I'm a Brooklyn guy that hid out in the Hamptons and listened to people. And eloquence isn't intelligence, but there's something that each of you, we're talking with downward inflections, and you might all think this is bullshit, but it isn't. You have to love the enemy, and you have to learn to speak to the enemy. We're all talking about being right. It's beyond being right. Our freedoms are being trampled on. And why? Our character. And our character is going down, not because of our intention, is that our perception does not see the sacred, which is our freedom. And once we start using that word, and once we start seeing children and our future, we're all realizing our mortality. None of us, I think, are afraid of our mortality. We're getting older. But I want to help you. I will give out my email, and we will talk. I think it comes simply to me when I hear what you have, you have bullet points, you want to say something. But the word is sacred, not solemn. We're not apologizing for what we do. Our intent and our tone does that. It stops. So I'm offering up my emails around. I'll give it out. I have cards. I'm a dog walker. I'll give you a dog walking card. All right, Dan, you're taking up too much time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, let me now take you to Steve Gillan from Project Civica. He's going to talk about his focus. He's doing a survey right now to put together some plans to help our candidates in fall. Steve Gillan, would you? Yes, please.
Around that side?
Oh, here's great.
Yeah, pick that side.
Good evening, everybody, and I'd like to thank Daniel and the board for allowing me to come here tonight. I'm from Project Civica. We're a 501c4 nonprofit. I'm the director of political affairs for the organization. We're a statewide organization. We go from Buffalo out to Suffolk County. We got people all around the state. We're taking a position that the reason Republicans don't come out and vote, or we don't get Democrats maybe to switch or independents to come over, is because they don't know what Republicans stand for. All right? I don't know if anybody in this room, if I ask, can you tell me what the Republican platform has been for the past 10 years? I can, and I'm a pretty solid Republican for my whole life. So anyway, what we did at Project Civica is I went back to 1994 and look what Newt Gingrich did. He created the Contract with America. The Contract with America was specific pledges that every congressional and Senate candidate across the country signed on to and ran under. He flipped 56 seats in the House of Representatives and 9 seats in the Senate. It was the first time in 40 years that the Republicans had control of the Congress. All right, so what we did is created what's called the Common Sense Contract with New York. And what it is 7 specific pledges on 7 specific issues that I developed based on exit polling and surveying that what is important to New Yorkers. So we created the Common Sense Contract with New York with these pledges. Our intent is to allow any candidate in New York State that wants to become a signatory of the Common Sense Contract, they can. We will get endorsements. I already got endorsements from a number of congressional candidates that will support this because it has to be New York centric. We need something to go out to tell people what you'll do for them if in fact you put it down in writing. All right, we all know politicians tell us all sorts of stuff and never do anything. This is a contract. They will sign it, and you know what? There'll be a scorecard. If they do not follow what they said they will do, we'll see them in 2 years. So anyway, what you have in front of you, if everybody opens it up, this is a focus group, okay? It's not a survey, it's a focus group. And the purpose of the focus group is to get your immediate opinion of what it says. All right, that's different. I'm sure you guys seen them on, during debates and so forth, that people sit there with buttons and they hit the buttons because you want their immediate, opinion of what happened. So what I'm going to do, if everybody opens it up, and on the top line you'll look, if you can fill out, I gave everybody a pen or a marker with it. If you fill out your age, your gender, your political party, and today's date if you can. All right, this is for the analysis of the focus group. I need to know demographics. There's one up here. There you go. Yeah.
This gentleman needs one.
You want? Yes, sir.
Thanks, got that? Yep, I got it.
Yep, put it up. All right. So if everybody got that filled, go ahead.
There's 0-1 that says, New York is the sanctuary state, but just the policy.
Let's go through it and then we can get asked questions afterwards, okay? So, all right, so if everybody's good, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna read it to you. You have no more to summon right in the back. I'm gonna read it to you, and then on the bottom, under each one, you see A through E on the left-hand side. A means it's not that important to you. E means the issue isn't very important to you. On the right-hand side, you'll see 1 through 5. 1 means that it's not clear to you. The verbiage is not clear. 5 means you completely understand the verbiage. All right, so everybody got that? A means you do not, it's not important to you. E means it's very important. 1 means it's not clear to you. 5 means it's perfectly clear to you. And what we do is I do an analysis. I got over 200. I've done it over 200 people already. I'll get to 400 and I'll do a full analysis of it. All right, so let's get started. First one, pledge. I pledge to sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to repeal executive order making New York a sanctuary state. We will also make it illegal to fund any city in the state that declares itself a sanctuary city, using taxpayer funds to support the invasion of illegal immigrants and take jobs from our citizens. $2.4 billion in the budget is not acceptable when our citizens need help. So now you can fill out, circle whatever one you want, A through E, 1 through 5. 5 is you agree, strongly agree. E is you strongly agree with the issue.
And 5 is you strongly understand it. You
Fully understand the issue, yes. The verbiage, you fully understand the verbiage.
So saying E is that you agree, and A
E is you strongly agree. 5 is that you fully understand the verbiage. All right, number 2. I pledge to sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to restore law and order. Pro-criminal laws will be repealed, and New York police departments will be adequately funded to protect the people of our state. This will include holding responsible any district attorney in New York State who refuses to protect New Yorkers from criminals, regardless of party affiliation. Number 3, I pledge to sponsor or co-sponsor legislation to support parental rights over our children and make all mandates illegal in New York State. Mask and medical mandates on our adults and children will no longer exist now or in the future. No more destroying our jobs and economy based on now provable, unsupported science. Okay, number 4. I pledge to support current legislation in Albany that calls for voter ID. 88% of Americans want voter ID, and so do New Yorkers. I will also sponsor or co-sponsor a bill to clean our voter rolls. We must have voter integrity in our elections or our republic will die. Number 5. I pledge to support all efforts to stop all wasteful spending in every budget category. No more political payoffs and backdoor deals plaguing our state. The $237 billion budget is destroying all New Yorkers. That number changed from 245 to 237. Number 6. I pledge to support all efforts to clean house in our Department of Education and Department of Health. Parents in New York State have the right to determine what their children are taught and their gender. No more hidden political agendas by the left, including the teachers union. Keep your hands off our children.
Sorry.
Yeah.
5.
Yep.
How could you possibly?
We can discuss it as we go through it. Okay? You could ask questions and we'll go through it. Number 7, I pledge to support the use of New York's abundant resources. High energy costs are the leading cause of inflation, and transportation in our supply chain is the main reason for outrageous increases. Using these resources will create thousands of high-paying jobs in our upstate region and billions of dollars in state revenues to fund the legitimate services New Yorkers deserve. And then the last question is, the overall impression of the concept. Would you vote for a candidate, regardless of the party, if they put down in writing what they pledge to do if you vote for them? 1 through 5. 5 meaning that you would support it strongly. All right, so the whole idea of this is we're gonna, do the analysis of all the focus groups, and then what we'll do is we'll finalize the verbiage and make sure the issues are strong with everybody. I wrote these. There shouldn't be any New Yorker, independent, conservative, Democrat, Republican, that should not agree with this, okay? But we'll see, and that's what the focus group is for. Then what will happen is Project Civica, we will be advertising this to all over the place. And the whole concept is if we have one message, one platform for the whole state, then every time Danny mentions it, it's helping every other candidate. Every time that other candidate mentions it, it's helping every other candidate because it's a consistent, precise message on what we'll do. All right, so somebody had questions? Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. Number 5, how can you possibly create it? That's very vague. Number 5.
Go ahead.
Number 5 is just very vague. I agree with it 1,000%, but I think that's from all the questions, which I think are so important. That's also important, number 5, but it's a little.
There's a number of ways to do it.
Okay.
Okay, great. Including budget.
That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's
Including budget. All right. Everything has to be funded. Everything has to be funded. Yeah, sir.
Number 4, you're writing 88% of Americans want voter ID.
Correct.
And you're throwing in, and so do New Yorkers. Do you have any idea how it's weighing in New York?
Precisely, no, I have not seen a poll. I have not seen a poll for New York specific. Okay. Now, we got to remember, the problem with what goes on in New York State is the city. All right, we had 48 seats and races in 2022 that went unchallenged. 48. All right, all in 90% of them were in the city. It's better this round. We got it down to 34. So we have to make sure every candidate, like Daniel and everybody else in the room, that they win. All right, vitally important. So thank you very much for giving it. Unless anybody has any other questions. This will all be done by the end of June. Then there'll be a website up with the analysis. That's
Yeah, how did the sanctuary concept begin?
okay. So the sanctuary is not a law. Okay, there's no specific legislation. What they did is use shield laws to stop ICE from coming in, and then police departments in New York State to work with ICE. So in 1983 or 4, I think it was that Koch got involved with it and sort of expanded it in New York City. All right, so the way that you have to go around to repeal this is that you have to put legislation in there saying that you cannot do it, and if that doesn't work, then you work through the budget process. That's why you have the budget process.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Who started this? Was it like city council?
Koch, I think it was the one that started, then Cuomo enforced it further. Then,
Yeah, it was sort of started when the homeless I believe they were talking about the homeless people need to be sheltered. And at that time, it was just a dozen, and I forget which organization forced the city to accept a lawsuit to have a shelter for the homeless at that time. And the first shelter that was approved was for 20-some people. Okay, we need to sort of move on there. It's only because we have an agenda and also one of our speakers need to leave soon. Okay. The next one last speaker before we get to the debate, Jeremiah Kaambo. He's running for the president of Namibia. You want to give us an update on where he is. So would you please come up, and then we're going to get to the debate.
Yes, hello. Good evening, everybody. As you heard, my name is Jeremiah Kaambo. I'm running as independent candidate for German Southwest Africa, today known as Namibia. Everything is going good. I started having some people that are doing my campaign on the ground. So I'm started doing petitioning. The only things that I'm facing that is a bit bothering me is just funds. I have not yet got people that are helping me with funds, or I have not started raising any funds. That's the only thing. And maybe to establish any office also on the ground. But the rest is moving forward. So if you have any question or anything, I'll be happy. So I'm anti-communism. So and my victory is your victory. So we all together fighting all in the same thing. Thank you very much, and have a good night, everybody.
Thank you very much, Jeremiah. Okay, let's get to the debate. We have one of the two people that's coming back in tonight, Kenneth. Apparently, I have not received an official denial, but apparently people from this campus won't be here tonight. So let me at least introduce Kenneth Chiu, the other candidate running in the 26th district. The winner of the June 26th election will be taking on Millie Rosick. So Kenneth, you want to say that's time to decide which will be winner. And it'll be moderated by Isaiah Vega. So Isaiah, please come up.
So, hello Kenneth.
Hello, Isaiah.
How you doing?
I'm good. I hope everyone here is good.
Yes, yes. So originally what we planned for is a debate between Kenneth Chiu and Kenneth Page. However, Mr. Page kind of declined last minute. Danny said he never declined officially, but from my conversation, he kind of declined. But here we are. So it's not going to be a debate. It's going to be more of like a fireside chat of sorts. So Kenneth, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you, Isaiah. I want to thank Daniel and Central Queens Republican Club for hosting this debate and keeping the monthly meetings going on, despite this year is going to be a big election. My name is Kenneth Chiu. I'm born and raised New Yorker, originally from Lower East Side, Chinatown, and then in Brooklyn in the last 6 years in Queens. I didn't choose politics. I got into politics in 2012 during Superstorm Sandy. At that time in my life, I had no time. Finances were okay, so I went to volunteer. Little did I know that volunteerism became 3 months, 6 months, a year. Next thing you know, it's 12 years. I don't know what my first political boss, for lack of a better word, some Felicia Ortiz saw in me. I was a Superstorm Sandy relief effort recruiter and organizer down in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And to be completely honest, I didn't even know where Red Hook was. Well, when I contacted my friend, hey, I got still time, I'd like to help. Oh, come on down to Red Hook. Where's Red Hook? That one. You pass by every single day to work to Manhattan. So yeah, it's in that time it was very rewarding. I saw directly how relief effort, how people coming together, the community coming together, despite the lack of government support. It was the early days after the storm. The army was not there yet. The Red Cross was not there. Just a bunch of people scrambling, contacting the local church, the Salvation Army, the small businesses, grabbing whatever they can get, flashlights, blankets, whatever, and just coming together. Pharmacies open their pharmacies, okay, giving out medication, whatever they have. So I saw how powerful that meant, and that really kept me in government, because there has been a few times where I went to quit and just go back to my old life. And for transparency reason, I was a Democrat until last December. 2 years ago, when I ran for New York State Assembly in Assembly District 40, which is downtown Flushing, community leaders recruited me to challenge some left-wing Rock Kim. instead of back in my district. They were telling me Rankin was a monster, someone gotta take a good fight. So I put in a fight, I lost by 62 votes. This year, there are other candidates taking on Ron Kim, so I decided to return back to my home district, District 25. And how I got to District 25, about 6 years ago in 2018, we were fighting the city and the state from changing the specialized high school entrance exam, as well as changing, trying to kill gifted and talented programs. I am all for merit-based education, and we fought, and we succeeded. But at that time, the parents in Queens, they needed an organizer to help them. So these leaders, they drafted me to come up to Queens. And initially, I was very reluctant to come up to Queens because back and forth from Brooklyn and Queens is a 4-hour trip during rush hour. But I have come to love my district in Casino Park, so much so that I'm running. And what else? I've been in the community and in government for almost 20 years. Initially, I trained individuals with mental retardation and developmental disability for 8 years. And then I worked in the assembly, in the city council, and in the Senate. Throughout that time, and this Democrat thing, I know it's going to continue to come up. A lot of people have asked, for as long as I've been a part of the Democratic Party, I've been fighting them just as long. On shelters, SHSAT, kicking the sex offenders out for freshman at Wyndham Garden, when Blasio, during COVID, issued an emergency order and placed 109 individuals from Rikers Island into Fresh Meadow without notifying our community, doing it late June. And I know how they work this. They usually the nastiest stuff. They bring it up late June when people are ready to go on vacation. By the time you return back from vacation or you're ready to take your kids back to school, you get shocked knowing that there's a shelter or a refugee camp is in your district. That's where they like to slip it in when you're not aware. And so, yeah, I've been fighting them for a long time. And I want to shout out to Assembly Member Lester Chang. 2 years ago, after I lost, Lester Chang was lobbying me to Kenny. You've been speaking to Democrats for 12 years. They haven't been listening. Why don't you make your life simple and come on board to help us? Join the party. Let's build the party from the ground up. We need good people like you. So he kept on lobbying and advocating. I finally said, you know what? Let's do this. Because I didn't get into politics to have a career in politics. I wanted to see real change on the ground. Earlier, someone said that Republicans were not visible enough in the community. I have to agree. A lot of people don't really care about politics. They care about who they see in their community, like the food pantry. It might be retail politics or whatever you want to call it, but that's how normal people relate. Normal people, they don't want to hear about a lot of these races, the history, who's good, who's bad, who's lying, who's not. They don't know. They don't know the difference. Maybe they're thinking both sides are lying. They just want to go about their business. So we need to make sure we meet them at where they are. If they need help, assist them. And then throughout those opportunities, we can educate them slowly. Bring them in, hey, this is going on. This affects your change. Like, what are they teaching in our schools? DEI, CRT, sex change. Why is that happening in education? A lot of these parents, especially in my community where there's majority immigrants, they don't have the time to sit down every single night to go through what their children are learning. But that's what they're teaching. I thank you. I thank Daniel and Isaiah for giving this opportunity to speak before you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Well, first I'd like to welcome you to the greener side of politics, even if the cattle are a little meaner. But you mentioned one good person, Leslie Chang, is also a good friend of mine. I'm glad he convinced you to join us. So I prepared a series of 10 questions, maybe a little more. These questions were made for both you and Mr. Peg, but since he's not here tonight, maybe he can answer them on his own time. So my first question, Assemblywoman Ali Rosen. What a woman. She has served 5 terms in the Assembly, prioritizing economic development, social justice, and government transparency, according to her website. Do you believe these priorities have been misplaced, and what will you do differently if elected to the Assembly?
I haven't done enough opposition research on her. That may or may not be the priority when she first ran. But I believe especially for elected representatives. Our priority should be the people's priority. And times change, things change, and our priorities do change. And right now, not just right now, but for the last several years at least, our priority public safety. We have seen on the city level as well as the state level how they are handcuffing our police officers, law enforcement, and it's not just bail reform. The discovery process, as well as how they can arrest people, and that's trickled down deep into the system. And it will take some time to continue to fight that because I think I'm pretty confident that most people know an officer here too. I know many officers within the 109 and the 111. They're demoralized. They spend hours and hours. They're getting video clips, testimony, whatnot. They send it over to the district attorney's office. Them taking less than a minute, say, "Hey, this is not priority. We're gonna let them sign off and walk." And this people don't really understand. If you look down the road, we are breeding monsters. There are several incidents in Chinatown and in Manhattan, Asian women, where the perpetrator, one was arrested 26 times, the other one that was arrested 36 times. Like, I love this country. We do believe in second chances because a lot of them, after they serve their time, they come back. They're part of our neighbors. They're part of our community. But at what point enough is enough? Like 20, 30 times? And today they might be shoplifting. Tomorrow they might be having a bar fights. And then it continues. They get more bold, they get more confident. Next thing you know, they think they're invincible. So we have to put a stop to it. Whatever Lady Rose's priority was, is certainly not the current priority of our district.
Very good. All right. Now, another priority that some people might have today is the ongoing migrant crisis, or as some would call it, the illegal migrant crisis. Illegal migrants have poured into the city in droves, straining the city's budget and resources over time. For a brief period of time, there was even a migrant shelter at the Chiu motorway, which is, I believe, at the southern panhandle of your district. With illegal migrants continuing to come into the city, what action will you take to address the crisis? And additionally, what can you do to stop the cartels that are kind of, forcing this problem to come to the city?
First and foremost, this is a federally manufactured crisis, a manufactured humanitarian crisis, a manufactured immigrant crisis. For 1 second, I don't want to say everything should be or should not allow them in. The federal government knows exactly how many people are across the border. If the moment they decide to let them in, they should have provided housing or whatever they need to settle them down, including background checks. But no, they did not. They allowed them in. So now we don't know these millions of people coming across the borders. We don't know who they are, where they come from. They're in our country. They're crisscrossing New York to California, Minnesota to Mississippi. We can't control that, and we cannot run a country like that. We cannot run our own household like that. So the first thing I would do is speak to like-minded assembly members and senators at the state level to potentially sue the federal government for every single dime that the city and the state is sacked with. Because our budgets, the way how we tax our citizens in New York, it was not in our budget. Nobody asked us. We're just forced to. Whether there's a right to shelter or not. Of course, we don't want people on the street, but one way or another, we're paying for it. And we need to hold the federal government accountable. And they should not be here. We should go back to the old immigration system where refugees and asylum seekers, they go to their consulate or embassy in the country or a nearby country, not by going through the Mexican border up to America. And we need to, I hope Donald Trump and our federal government will speak to Mexico, because Mexico have very strict illegal migrant laws. You get caught in Mexico, it's an automatic 10 years. Automatic in the jail 10 years. So if they're coming across the southern border, we need to have an honest conversation with Mexico and say, hey, you're our neighbor. Every year we allow many Mexicans to come to our country with work visas. It's fine. But now these individuals coming through your border into the United States, they're creating chaos. So I want to help you. I want you to help us to help you. So We have a quota, let's just say 500,000 people. So we don't care if they're Mexicans or Chinese or from the Middle East or from whatever. So long as they're coming from a southern border, once that quota hits, cut off. Let Mexico deal with it because it is their responsibility. They're coming through Mexico. So that's what I would advocate for. That's what I would hope Donald Trump, when he gets elected, that's the first thing I hope he does.
The next Donald, kind of a controversial thing. Do you support Donald Trump? Do you hope he gets back into office?
In all honesty, sometimes when I read about it online or on my phone or paper, I have this kind of moment. I don't always like the wording he uses or how he says it, but on principle, he's absolutely correct. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable. I have a lot of friends that are not comfortable with the language he uses, but I look beyond the language. You know, the fact of the matter is, what we're dealing with, what these Democrats, especially progressive left-wing Democrats, are doing, is not right. So yes, I would support Donald Trump for president.
Glad to hear it. All right, now let's roll over to another topic, housing. With rising costs for both renting and buying a house, the burdens are crushing families and destroying dreams of buying a home. What measures will you take in helping bring down these costs?
During COVID, when de Blasio and then Eric Adams and Hobo and well before that Kaambo, there was a rent freeze, there was eviction freeze, there was assistance for tenants, which was needed, but there was no assistance for homeowners. Because they think all these homeowners are millionaires or billionaires, but they forget to realize that they have mortgages, they have bills too, they have water bills, property taxes, you name it, and we were advocating and fighting. Luckily, the state government did create ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and funded the 25 million. It was not anywhere near enough, but it was better than nothing. At that time, I co-founded and part of two housing group. A lot of people don't know right now with the current housing laws, a lot of homeowners don't want to rent. There's a whole black market within the Asian community. They're not renting it publicly. They're not advertising it. If you want to rent it, it must come with a referral because they're afraid that one bad tenant move in that don't pay their rent, take them to housing court, they will lose not only 5 years' time, but also have to pay the legal fees and all the headaches and damages. So we have to undo some of these housing laws. It's way too strict, and because of those laws, it's creating chaos within the housing stock. We also need to advocate the city to expand housing court. The city, they know how many hundreds of thousands of cases that are backlogged. They know if they decide to expand housing court, it will speed up. We should expedite eviction cases. It not only helps homeowners, but it also helps tenants. Nobody should have to go through the system for 2-3 years, okay, not knowing if are they going to stay or are they going to go, especially if they have seniors at their house or children. So yeah, that's where I would start first.
Now, a follow-up question. Assemblywoman Nally Rosing recently advocated for a rent freeze in regards to I believe the rent board's guideline wanting to increase rents or, the maximal, allow rents. Do you support something like that, freezing the increases in rent, or is that something the rent board's guidelines should continue to enforce?
That's another city regulated issue. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not overly familiar with where it stands right now. I've been campaigning. But what I do want to do is, okay. But what I do want to see is, some people don't realize it. In New York City, your property taxes are allowed to rise 20% over a 3-year period of time. While outside of New York City, property taxes are capped at 2% rise. So if you go to Long Island or you live in Westchester, your property taxes again will not rise more than 2%. So I like to see we not exempt New York City from that, to cap property tax rise, because a lot of people can't afford New York City. Inflation, as with other costs, keeps going higher. Our seniors, our veterans, homeowners, they work all their life to purchase their home. I like to see them stay in their home instead of having to look to Florida or to the great state of Texas to see if they can not only afford the place that they want to live, but also keep their way of living standard.
Very good. Now, remaining on the topic of like fiscal responsibility and the use of money in our state. Every year, both the city and state spend billions in their budgets, the number being one of the highest in the entire nation, if not the highest. Despite that, there have been cuts to libraries and public services that New York depends on. What actions would you take to help curb the budget and make New York fiscally responsible?
I think, especially in my time in the last 12 years in government, seeing how the budget works, it just gets bigger and bigger. Good times, unions, corporations, they all get more money. Bad times, they still get a raise. I think the average worker in New York and in the country, they would love to see that too. No matter what, it goes up, it just goes to how much. I think we need to go back to a smaller government without having to provide everything to the people. I think people are smart enough to know what they want to do with their life, how they want to live their life. Of course, we have to have a safety net because we all go through bad times. We want to make sure that when we do go at the bad times, there's a safety net. But otherwise, I would like to see our government much smaller.
Thank you. Now, let's circle back to more of your personal life. Now, you've mentioned that you served the public in many ways, especially since you started politics. Now, serving the public in government can be complemented with the experience of having served as a private citizen. You've already explained your history, but what do you currently do in the community in your daily life?
So I do a lot of activism, not just with the housing group, but also neighbor patrol called Public Safety Patrol in downtown Flushing. During COVID, there was a dramatic rise in attacks on Asians. And several patrol groups have started. I'm part of one of them. But soon afterward, we've been hearing people, neighbors, friends, requesting us to extend our patrol, not just in downtown Flushing, but also to Fresh Meadow, Open Garden, and Bayside. But because of capacity, we have to slowly let it grow out. I'm proud to say that I was able to extend that patrol from downtown Flushing to Fresh Meadow and Bayside. It's still growing, and I don't want people to be confused. We're not, and we cannot replace the NYPD and the officers, but they're handcuffed to what they can do. We're here to work alongside with them in our volunteer basis. It could be as simple as patrolling a casino park, which we know that very unfortunately a 13-year-old girl was raped by a migrant that was caught 2 days ago. But it's not always big things. It can be small things. A lot of people ask me, what does politics does? And ultimately, politics is there to serve people. So sometimes we may not be able to change laws, but in our capacity, with the knowledge and experience that we have, we know what's going on in government. We know which programs and services to push. We have the information. A big deal of what I do is educating my fellow Asians. Many of them, first generation, second generation Asians, they don't even have time to learn English. They're working 10-hour shift, 12-hour shift. Yes, they chose this country to go home, but they're also trying to put food on the table. They're working their behinds off, hoping that their kids get to enjoy the American dream and live that out. So a big part of it is educating about their rights, what they can do, what they cannot do, how and why is it important to go vote, why is it important to call 911. A lot of them tell me, hey, I'm not gonna call 911. I call the police if it takes 2 hours. And I have to continuously educate them. Yeah, it might take 2 hours, but if you don't call, it's not in the system, and it never happened. So a big part of what I do is that, as well as Lions Club, in cases like the SHST, we bring people to fight them, homeless shelters, Fresh Meadow Women's Garden, the list goes on.
Yeah, you mentioned the rape of the girl in Casino Park. That was such a tragedy. 13-year-old girl. Thankfully, the guy was captured thanks to the help of the community. Truly tragic. That's permanently scarring. Now, back to crime, since you did bring that up. Despite what the government said, everyone feels that crime itself. I just lost it. With bail reform, clean slate, and other laws that favor criminals, this has undoubtedly led to the surge in violent crime, especially in Flushing, where it is very up this year. In addition to repealing these laws, what other actions will you push to bring down crime and bring back a sense of safety to the communities here in New York City?
We can run down a list of things we can improve and upgrade or install immediately, but the first thing is the tone. Right now, the tone is they're handicapping the police. We need to change that tone to let people know. Don't even think about it. Crime doesn't pay. We obviously should reform the bail reform so they do away with it. We should not close down Rikers Island. We should not be spending $12 billion, last I checked, $12 billion on building community detention centers. And I have to add, sometimes I scratch my head when they oppose these things because there's a program, a little known program the city and the state have as far as incarcerated individuals. There's actually a city-state program where we can transfer inmates, those that have been convicted from the city system into the state. So if we do that, say even if they want to close down Rikers, we can send them upstate. In many of these towns upstate, their detention center, the corrections facility, is the whole economy of the town. Now, several of them have shut down the last 2 years. So we can have a win-win situation where you don't want Rikers, we can send them upstate. Their economy can still run. We get to send a convicted individual somewhere instead of saying, and watch this. After they close that down, they're gonna say, "Oh, we don't have space. We gotta release them." That's exactly what Democrats is gonna do. I work with them. I know how they work. I know their playbook. That's exactly how they're gonna do it. So we have to stop them, and we have to control this crime.
Very good. Now, speaking of the Democrats, something that recently was paused was congestion pricing, which a lot of Democrats seem to be relieved of, despite the fact that everyone seems to think that it's going to pass. Now, the MTA is the country's best rail network, surprisingly, and part of the lifeblood of New York. However, the system often fails more than succeeds with delays, repairs, and even congestion pricing, which is not going away, it's just a cost, despite having a budget of $20 billion. Given these facts, what should the MTA be doing differently than it is now?
I think congestion pricing is just a fancy word for cash grab. Again, over my 12 years in government and looking at their budget, I've not seen them do anything right. All I've seen them is the cost keeps going up. It does. I try to understand this, and I'm not like some Yale graduate or anything like that. When I have time in the office, I look at these budgets and I try to understand, like, why are we spending $1 billion for changing signals? Why does it take so long? And then I Google it and I look at other transportation systems around the world. It doesn't take anywhere near as much money or anywhere near as much time, And I would share a not so secret. The way how they run the system, they run it in a way all these union jobs continue to have jobs throughout the year. They have a schedule where the roads are in non-stop continuous repavement. So none of the union members have a job. Now, I don't have any problem with unions, but that's how the system we're going through. Where they continue to tax us, where we can pay, but nothing improves. So we have to look at the MTA budget. I haven't looked at the budget in a long time, and I don't want to give misinformation or mispromises about it. But it needs to be cut. Not so long ago, when I was much younger, the MTA used to don't cover so many lines. The lines that do not serve too great a population, they give up independent contracts to small businesses, like buses like out in Westchester, busing them into a major transportation corridor. Maybe we should look back into that instead of trying to provide everything for everybody anywhere.
Sounds good. Now, as we come into the final set of questions here, we're going to talk about the future a little. Let's start with the youth. Majority of today's youth are disengaged or disgusted with politics and even life in general. Have you saw youth involvement in your campaign? And if not, how will you engage the youth in your campaign?
We have actually many youth that come here from time to time, once a week during the weekend. They're taking their regions now. I'm hoping that they finish it faster. When I go out with them, I usually try to educate them on civics, on their responsibility. And I tell them, I know they don't care because they're healthy, they're young, they're not worried about healthcare, they're not married, they're not worried about purchasing a home. You know, they don't need to work, so they don't need to worry about all the stuff that many of you are worrying about. And I educate them where civics needs to be taught in our schools. It really does, because they don't know. They're enjoying the system. It's only until when they get to late 30s, okay, maybe early 40s, when they start to pay taxes actually and have to be responsible for these bills. That's when they start to learn. But you need to engage. They are our future. It's tough, especially with what they're teaching in schools and these universities. We all know what's going on at Columbia University, at Stanford, at MIT. You know, we need to reintroduce civics in school, and not just in the third grade. If we could, like a refresher course every single year, so it ingrains in them, even for immigrants, because they easily forget. No disrespect, a lot of times I tell my fellow Asians, with white people, you don't need to remind them. They know at a certain time of the year is voting time. They don't need any flyer. They can go online or they will look for it. But for Asians, I'm a joke. If there's $1 on the ground, we don't need half a reason to pick that up. But when it comes time to voting, there's 10,900 reasons why we don't vote or forgot to vote. So I'm working with a lot of community groups here, trying to ingrain in them where they vote more often, because I've seen how government react when you guys vote. When you guys, our elected officials react fastest to two things: your donations and your votes. They don't need a survey. When they see the voting patterns, when they see the donations drop, they react really pronto. We have to introduce civics, and we have to engage our children, because whether we like it or not, they are our future, and we just have to keep on trying and trying.
Very good. Now, you brought up something in that what they're teaching in schools. It's not a very good thing. Now, my question regarding education, we've talked about the youth, and we're talking about it again. They are our future. Yet politicians, they seem to be taking them for granted. With the class size mandate that will reduce seats in schools, especially the specialized schools, the attacks on the SAT, which I know you've been advocating for, and an ordinance from, the State Attorney General, Letitia James, to add on LGBTQ curriculum, what are you planning to do to fight back against the attacks on education that you haven't already been doing now?
I think we should defund the education system, but not in the defund per se. I've been thinking a lot the last few years with what they're doing in schools. The ICRT, shrinking class sizes. None of it makes sense, because just with shrinking class sizes, I don't know where to come up with this, because there's not even enough schools. So you make it smaller. Instead of 35 kids per class, 20 kids. Yes, it's better. They will pay attention better. The teacher will be able to teach them. Yes, but where are the schools? So before mandating smaller class sizes, build the schools. You build the schools, then we can move it. And with education, with all the stuff that they're teaching and ramming it through the curriculum, one parent don't know. I think we should seriously consider education vouchers. So nice and simple. You have one child. But we already know that we spend about $30,000 to educate a child per year. So you're gonna choose charter, private school, religious school. I don't care. You, the parent, and the family have full control of where they should send their kids. So if certain schools require a test, pick the test, okay? But it's in your power. Right now, with the Department of Education and the union, UFT, the way how they run the show, it's not right. It cannot happen. And with what? Boy, girl, I don't know what in between, okay? Let's keep it simple. Really simple. I really hate them, okay, to play any games in our children's lives.
Very good. Now, let's wrap this up. Ken Page, an intro tonight. Why do you think that is?
I know this is a competition, a campaign. From what I read, I think he is a very decent guy. He served his time for our country. He served many years in the NYPD. I don't want to venture into guessing why he's not here, but let's just do the best we could and respect the election results. And I'm sure win, lose, or whatnot, afterward, hopefully we sit down and figure out a way how we can move forward, because he's not my enemy. I don't think he's my enemy. Yes, it's going to be a battle. I expect a low turnout, but our end game is to knock out these Democrats. They have a supermajority in the Senate. They have a supermajority in the Assembly that will take a lot of time to. And as I promised Assembly Minister Chang, I'm not here. I didn't switch party or run district just to run. I'm here also to build the party from the ground up, because from what I've seen, it requires a lot of building. It requires a lot of outreach. There are a lot of neighborhoods that don't even know, as other guests have mentioned, what the Republican Party stands for. They don't know where to go to. So they may be pissed off at Democrats. Where's the other option? They need to know that they have another option. They need to know that Republicans are in their community. Republicans are in their districts, and we're ready to fight. We need to bring them in. So people like me that switched last year, I hope my Republican friends, new friends, can accept me for who I am. I stood up for our values for many years. I hope that we accept other folks, other voters that switch. We need to grow this party. The fact is, there's not enough Republicans in my district or anywhere in New York City to fight this fight. So it's a long battle, but we have to continue.
Now, follow-up question. Let's say in the worst case scenario for you, you end up losing to Ken Page. Would you be endorsing him or even helping him for the general election?
People that know me know that I'm a team player. I would have no problem sitting down with him to really figure things out. But it also depends on how he runs his campaign. I'm only one person, right? If my whole team is pissed off, and I'm going to sit down with Mr. Peck, and work things out, without consulting my team, without caring about how hard they work in the rain, in the cold, in the wind, it's very disrespectful to my team. It's not just about me. As much as we are running, it's not just about me. It's also about my team. It's also about our supporters, our donors, and the voters. So I promise you, and everybody here, if I could, I would do my best, okay, to really sit down and work something out.
Very good. All right, that ends my questions. So we'll take some from the audience. You in the yellow.
I have two questions. First one, do you know the idea of Republican Party? Second one, do you support Donald Trump and vote for Donald Trump? Why?
Let me first answer the easier one, supporting Donald Trump. I said earlier, I do support Donald Trump, and I would definitely vote for Donald Trump. Second, right before I switched, I actually did look up Republican Party principles, and I support the Republican Party principle of smaller government, free market economy, protecting Second Amendment rights, and I'm pro-choice of what individuals do in America. I don't have the best of memory, but I agree with all of them.
Could you define pro-choice? What does that mean? Oh, sorry. Can you define pro-choice and what that means to you?
I don't mean pro-choice as in abortion, but in general, every American should be able to choose for himself or their family. And since I brought up abortion, I speak pretty candidly, and other people have asked. Even in my time within the Democratic Party when they're having those discussions. I'm always thinking, every time they're talking about half the equation, what to do with women, females when they're pregnant. But there's a other whole half of the conversation that we don't discuss because we know that they don't get pregnant themselves. So what are we doing with the men that are impregnating these ladies? That being said, in general, I am against abortion. We cannot have people going to the clinic like it's a dental clinic and you just need to clean it up. We can't. We should introduce lots of education in the community so they understand the responsibility of what becoming a parent is. We need to prepare them. But who am I, even as a legislature, to tell somebody what they can or cannot do with their body?
Let's get someone else to ask a question. Right here. Kenneth.
Your experience, did you say you were in the government now, or you were in the government? Maybe I wasn't following.
I got my start 12 years ago, 2012, and I worked in the assembly for 2 years before moving over to city council. And then the state senate. The last few years I've been doing a political consultant, and in between, a lot of advocacy.
How about you, Jonathan?
Hey, let's be real here. The reason why Kenneth Page is not here is because county told him not to come here. All right, he's not an endorsed candidate, and neither am I. If I went to the Middle Village Republican Club the other day, and Craig Haruna said that I'm not allowed to speak, and I'm sure you aren't either. So my question to you is, if I hope that you win, but if you don't win, are you comfortable in forming our own coalition so that we can take the power back of the Queens Republicans and not have to rely on Tony Nunziato and Joe Kincannon, who both of them single-handedly have crushed the Queens Republican Party. So are you comfortable in forming your own coalition with people like me to take our city back?
I really don't know why Mr. Peck is not here.
Because county told him not to come, plain and simple.
What I can tell you through my actions the last 12 years in the Democratic Party, now in the Republican Party, in the future. As much as I'm in the party, I'm not dictated by what the party decides. As I fought de Blasio on the SHSAT, I fought him on the shelters, Rikers Island. Many people have told me, Kenny, you're young, you got a long way to go. You don't need to piss off the mayor, you don't need to piss off the governor, I didn't stop. I still went after them. So if it's the right thing, I will do the right thing, the right way. So since I'm on record, if the Republican Party comes to me one day and asks me to do something or vote on something that I actually don't agree, even if it might cost my re-election, I won't do it. I promise you.
Let's get the guy in the white.
How would you deal with somebody who has TDS, trunk derangement syndrome?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what that means.
That means they're psychotic. When you say you don't know what it means, I'm not sure.
There are some people, when the whole mention of Donald Trump or anything that he done that was good, they just go bananas and they say he's evil and it's this a trick and it's a lie and it's this. In other words, everything that's wrong is because of Donald Trump. Okay, everything. Doesn't matter even if it didn't happen yet. All right. So what he's saying is, what's your opinion about Trump? How do you handle it? He said, how do you handle Trump?
I think the best way to handle them is just leave them alone. I mean, I feel I'm pretty patient because I train individuals with mental retardation for 8 years. Sometimes you just gotta let people be who they are. Just get out of their way. Just let it be. We can't win every conversation. We can try. We'll talk to them, but if they just let it be.
We'll take two more. So Jerry?
Familiar with Bobby Ann Cox, she has went against Governor Hochul's internment camps for people who don't want to be vaccinated, or she just can say that, oh, well, we think you may have a communicable disease, we can lock you up and there's no way for you to get out of it. So she lost her court case. She's on appeal. You file an amicus brief before you get elected, and then when you get elected, file legislation so that they can't do that to us.
I'm not familiar with the case, I really am not. And I don't want to say something wrong. I will look into it. But generally with my mandates, it's just like laws. In Germany, there are some highways. There's no speed limit, but this is amazingly safe. So with these masks, if your neighborhood or if individuals want to wear masks, go ahead. You know, if other folks don't want to, let it be. You know, if you think that, oh, this neighborhood, okay, they go unmasked, it's dangerous, okay, or it's unhealthy. No one asked you to come down here. You know, vice versa. So we should not have any of these mandates. And as this has been proven, and I actually, honestly, I once thought it was scientific too, until I started seeing the reports, okay, and it was absolutely false. Yeah, so no mandates.
Final question, Martha.
Oh, first of all, I would strongly encourage you to learn as much as you can about these internment camps, because it is a really horrendous situation. But the question that I wanted to ask was connected with a question that Isaiah asked you about education and what's going on these days with what they're teaching students. And I'm wondering if you would support first of all, support legislation for parents' rights about things like vaccination and the education and control of their children. But also, would you support legislation like some other states have had, like Florida for CRT, saying for young children that this is not appropriate? And also, make legislation, support legislation that other states like Tennessee and Florida and others have put through to protect children from being pushed into this transing of children and teaching children that they should question their sex and their who they are. I'm talking about sensible legislation. Would you support that kind of legislation?
First, I find that what they allowed to do in the Department of Education is despicable. Absolutely despicable. One, they don't educate the parent. They don't tell them the curriculum. Number two, our children are very impressionable. They don't know what's right or wrong. A lot of this stuff, okay, that you see that's happening at the university is because it just didn't happen. It was the seeds were planted when they were in elementary school. You know, so they're told that it's right. They're told that they question. I'm trying to find the right word. They question their sex. They question, are they men, boys, or girls? That's it. Absolutely despicable. When I went to school, it was very simple. Math, science, history, civics, very simple. So if they want to teach all the extracurricular activities or programs or whatever, they can, okay, but they need to get the parents' consent. They can't just put up a curriculum without telling parents. You know, it needs to be very absolutely transparent. And while I'm on that, I believe the best way to force them to change is probably pushing for education vouchers, because right now the union have a lock on the Department of Education and on many of these politicians. You know, 250,000 votes against a lot of votes. You know, we need to issue education where parents are empowered. So if they want to take their kid out of the public system, they want to go private, charter school, independent school, religious school, they also have that power.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a request? I know Mr. Choa back there. He's been dying to answer the question.
Go ahead, take it.
Okay, you talk in front of the Chinese media, say you're going to put a straight gun control law after you get elected. But why not? You say you support the Second Amendment. So what I want to find out is the statement you're talking about to put a straight law to control the gun is a joke, or are you serious about that? Because the New York State already have the most straight gun control law in the country. So how far you want to go? I mean, are you serious about your statement, or it's just a joke? Because you just tell me that you support the Second Amendment.
If I'm understanding correctly, it's about gun control, right? All right. Even as a Democrat, all the way back, I don't know how many years, I've never really been against the Second Amendment. That's federal law. That's part of the Constitution, part of our rights, you know. But what we need to control is, okay, who can have that gun? We cannot have illegal migrants have that gun. We cannot have, okay, people that are crazy to have those guns. We need to have a better system, okay, to make sure that those guns do not get into the hands to hurt more people.
So how straight do you want to go? Because in New Jersey, you buy ammunition, there's no background check. In New York, we buy ammunition, there's a background check. And people, they get their ammunition 2 days after, or they never get their ammunition. So it's already very straight compared to other states in this country. So how far you still want to go?
Honestly, I don't know all the rules and regulations. I will look into it. But the two types I just mentioned, we definitely don't want guns in the hands. I would love to have a time machine to know every single piece of legislation. So if that's what you mean, yeah, I didn't do enough.
Anyway, I want to thank you very much, Kenneth, Chiu, for coming today. Thank you. I would like to move on to our independent candidates there. We have 5 U.S. presidential candidates who submitted a petition. Only 1 submitted enough to have ballot access. We also have a U.S. Senate candidate, and the only person who submitted also qualified for ballot access. We have the candidate here tonight, and also representative of Mr. Robert Kennedy's group. I'd like to have Mr. Seidel, talk about his Robert Kennedy thing first. Felicia, would like to join him? What do you like? On stage here, what do you like? Sure, go ahead.
You know what? This is really good. Come up with me. This is awesome.
Yes, please.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Seidel. It's my wife, Felicia. We live in Rego Park. I'm a lawyer here in the community. I've lived here my whole life. Actually went to Russell Sage and Forest Hills High School. And Felicia and I are very active in the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. presidential campaign. And we're active in it for a lot of reasons, which I'm going to be talking to you about right now. And first and foremost, on behalf of the campaign, I want to thank your club and the members here for inviting us as independents. To speak to your group. It's kind of ironic that you've invited us to speak to you exactly at the time when CNN and the DNC are keeping Mr. Kennedy from participating in the debate upcoming, if one could call it that, and I don't know that a discussion or a show with President Biden and President Trump would actually be a debate. But be that as it may, they are excluding Mr. Kennedy from that, despite the fact that he has met the criteria that they themselves set. He has enough percentage in the polls, and they should let him there, but they don't want him to be there for obvious reasons. And it's kind of ironic that they talk about being the parties of democracy when they are excluding a candidate from participating who has tens of millions of supporters. And somebody that's at 15% nationally has tens of millions of supporters. And I might add, talking about that topic, First Amendment type stuff, that in US law, talking about how the First Amendment works, it's not just freedom of speech to the speaker. There are rights for the citizenry to hear speech and to learn the issues and to hear about things that they may not know about. So when people are excluded from talking and excluded from participating in discussions, especially at the level of importance of the presidential election, it's not just that the speakers are being prevented from speaking, it's that the citizens are being prevented from hearing other points of view. Whether they agree with them or not, they're entitled to be heard, and they're not being heard so far. So anyway, it's just kind of ironic that you guys have asked me and the campaign to come down here and talk. We so appreciate it, and the irony is not lost on us that our candidate, Mr. Kennedy, is being prevented from participating in the debates at this time. So just a bit of context about Mr. Kennedy, and I know that some of you probably know a lot about him, but maybe some of you don't know too much about him, and I won't go into a long-winded historical explanation, but I want to put it a little bit in context. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the son of Robert F. Kennedy, who ran for president and was assassinated in 1968. So RFK Jr. is his son, and he's the nephew of President John F. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, the President, Mr. Kennedy Jr., was 9 years old when his uncle was assassinated and 14 years old when his father was assassinated. He went on in his life to become a lawyer. He's licensed here in New York, and he's not been a politician, unlike many of his relatives. He has not run for political office. He's not been appointed as an ambassador. He's not participated in politics that way, though he's had a lifelong interest in it. What he has spent his career doing was being an environmental lawyer, following a passion that he had since he was a young man. And as an environmental lawyer, he was instrumental in cleaning up the Hudson River here in New York. And how did he do that? He took on cases for fishermen whose livelihoods and whose traditions were being destroyed by pollution in the Hudson River. He's a great believer in the power of the legal system to right wrongs, and he did that on behalf of fishermen in New York, cleaned up the Hudson River, and he's not taking credit for doing it single-handedly. There were other people involved, there were other lawyers involved, but he recovered tens of millions of dollars from companies that were blatantly polluting the river for many years and got it to where it's one of the cleanest waterways in the country, restored the fisheries, restored a lot of wildlife. And from that experience, he went on and started Riverkeeper Alliance groups across the country and across the world. 40 years as an environmental lawyer, protecting the rights of the environment and of people and small business people and farmers and fishermen and people whose rights were being trampled by big corporations who were basically not paying for what they did. He made them pay. And so at a certain point, he decided that because things that he was talking about in society and in the world, he was being censored and demeaned because he was speaking truth to power. He was talking about things that big companies, big pharma, big food, big agriculture, military industrial complex, he was bringing these things to light or trying to. And what did he get in return for that? A concerted effort by moneyed interests to demean him, defame him, destroy him, censor him. And one of the reasons why he initially decided to get involved in presidential politics was so they would censor him less, and so his message could be heard. And because he was a lifelong Democrat, he entered the fray in this presidential race as a Democrat a year or so ago, wanting to run against President Biden in the primary. And what did he get for that? Censorship, attempts to demean him and his family. And what was he really wanting to do? He wanted to put President Biden to the test. Can he debate? Shouldn't the Democrats have wanted to know that? To know whether they had a candidate who could stand up to the rigors? But what did they do in response? They changed the rules. They changed the order of the primaries. They added rules that made it so he could not win. And as things went on, it became apparent he was not going to get a fair chance. People were not going to get to hear him. And last October, he announced his departure from the Democratic Party. He declared his independence. Felicia and I were there in October. I'd say it was one of the most exciting days of my life, watching him be on that stage, while thousands of people cheered his decision to run as an independent. Now, running as an independent is no small task. You've got to get on the ballot in 50 states with 50 different sets of laws, and depending on which state you're in, with concerted opposition from whichever party is primarily in power in that state. So we just went through the petitioning process here in New York. A number of years ago, not that long ago, I think maybe 4 years ago or so, don't hold me to it, but it wasn't that long ago. In order to keep independent candidates off the ballot, the laws were changed in New York to require 45,000 signatures in a very short window of time. 6 weeks, but it's really 5 weeks, because when you're collecting the signatures, you've got to organize them, you got to get them ready to be submitted, you got to review them. And so it was really 45,000 signatures in 5 weeks, with people going out to get them that you recruited and trained yourselves. Felicia and I were the Queens volunteer coordinators. So we had people that were working with us and for us and reporting to us just in Queens. We were in touch with people all over the state. And we were very proud that in New York, our volunteers collected 135,000 signatures, triple the amount that was needed, because we knew that we were going to be challenged, because that's what the powers that be do. And we submitted our signatures. And for me personally, I thought, okay, the media doesn't really cover Mr. Kennedy, because it's kind of what they do. That's how they deal with it. Rather than letting us all and you all hear what he has to say and talk about the issues, they just don't cover him. But I thought, naively I guess, that when we achieved this monumental task, we got 135,000 signatures, enough to get him on the ballot. I thought this was going to be a big story. And you know what it was? Crickets. They didn't cover it. I mean, did any of you see this as a real big story? I didn't. To qualify. Yes. Well, it depends on how you define that. How many states is he qualified in? But I can tell you, looking at the requirements across the country, he's going to qualify in all 50 states. He's been certified in quite a few already. He has enough signatures in some. The way the media basically reports this is, he's only on in a few, he's not on. What they don't tell you is, some of the petitioning hasn't started yet. Some of it is still going on. Some of them, like in New York, we have enough, but there are challenges. Okay, the Democrats and the Republicans are entitled to challenge them, but there's enough signatures there. But so for CNN's purpose and for other purposes, you want to say he's not on yet? Fine. Eventually, that's all going to be resolved, and he should be on in all the places. Okay, so why did he leave the Democratic Party? Because the Democratic Party ceased to stand for the things that he thought they always would stand for. Workers, peace, First Amendment, standing up to injustices perpetrated by big business. And he found, and I think this is so, that those are not the things that the Democratic Party stands for at this point. It's almost like things were flipped on their head and they became the party of big pharma and moneyed interests and war, etc.
Before you run out of clock, let's have some back and forth. They're going to tell us it's time to go, right?
Well, I'm not going to go on for hours. I'll finish. I'm happy to take questions, but I also want to make sure that the other speakers get to speak. So I'll play this however you want. If you want me to take questions, I will. I'd like to finish what I plan to say. Okay, so I'll summarize briefly. What are the main things that Mr. Kennedy stands for, and why is he running? It would be easy to say people are not happy with the choice of Trump or Biden. The polls show that. Most people perceive that they don't have a choice. Part of that is because people are not aware that Mr. Kennedy is running. And why is that? So sometimes people say to us, how come we don't see him on TV? Isn't he running? Isn't he campaigning? I can assure you, he's campaigning everywhere. He's speaking all over the country. The media is not covering him. And why is that? You watch the news and watch CNN. 80% of the commercials on there are from where? Drug companies and pharmaceuticals. What's that all about? Is that a business model that works for them? Are they like selling a lot of product doing that? It's not the reason why they're doing that, why they have all those ads, why all that money is going to these networks. It's going there because they want to control the message. They want. Okay.
Well. Okay, that wasn't a question. The point is, of course the media is going to ignore him. If he's going against the establishment, he has to attack the establishment. If he's got money, he's got to present it. Two things. He's got to show people what he's about. He's got to clean up his past record about autism with vaccines. The big thing, a lot of people think he's a quack. Do you understand that?
Well,
the point is, he's got to clean up his own act and not talk about the worm in his brain. And the point is that he's got to attack the establishment, because otherwise, of course, everybody will ignore him.
Well, when you say he should attack the establishment, the fact is, because he attacks the establishment and asks uncomfortable questions that people don't want asked, they attack him. But part of the way they attack him is by not covering him.
He's got to attack the candidates now. Of course, they're going to keep.
Well, how can he attack the candidates when he's not in the debate? Now, it's an interesting question. That
It's not the only way to communicate. He's got to put his money and what he's raised funds. Put it on there.
I would say this to you and to everyone here. While Mr. Kennedy is not seen on mainstream media, because whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC or the New York Times, they're all supported by the same background companies. And they're not going to put him on because he's asking the questions that nobody wants to talk about. And so if you really want to know what he's all about, all you need to do is look around on podcasts, on YouTube, on places where he answers those questions. And by the way, this is a person who can talk in detail about any number of topics. Anyone that's ever heard him speak knows that. Thank you, sir.
What is your stance on forced vaccination and mandates?
Well, his stance on forced vaccinations and mandates is he was against the mandates and is in favor of vaccine safety, and that vaccines should be put to the same type of testing that other types of medical and other products are put to. He's often hit with the pejorative of he's an anti-vaxxer. People say that to us when we're out there all the time. He's not an anti-vaxxer. He's a person who believes in vaccine safety.
What is vaccine safety?
Vaccine safety means that.
Vaccines were rolled out without any testing.
Well, that's right, and that's why he didn't think that they should have been mandated, and that we should have been studying them as they were being rolled out. They should be being studied now for the effects that they've had, and it's not something that's likely to be done if the present administrations continue, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. It doesn't seem like there's really any mettle there to go and actually get the facts as to how effective were the vaccines, so-called. I don't call them vaccines, but.
In regards to like any misinformation you think you might have, what would be the top thing?
Would it be okay to do this? We have 10 minutes left in the meeting. I would love to Diane and Sare.
I really don't want to step on Diane's time. That's fine.
So,
Can I say
I mean,
something?
you're welcome to stay, okay, and I'd like to have Diane be able to say something there, and
Yes.
you're welcome to stay there too, if you like. And then after Diane makes her speech, then people could ask the questions, would that be okay? Okay.
I will, yes, thank you. I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk to us. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Now, Diane is the other person who got ballot access in New York State, and she's phenomenal. She has a lot of people all over Forest Hills. I know that's collecting petitions. For those who do not know her, she's running on the LaRouche party line. And anyway, let me pass the microphone over to you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I can stand here. You can see me. So yes, I'm running for U.S. Senate. I did get on the ballot. There were no challenges to my signatures, which were just shy of 70,000 volunteers. And you should know some of what's going on in the various lawsuits around the Kennedy petitions, because frankly, it's outrageous what the DNC is doing right now. And I think you were a little too kind to the DNC. They are a fascist organization. Now, what I will say is that the issue we are facing is we are at the end of the transatlantic British liberal system. The City of London and Wall Street are sitting on a bubble of about $2 quadrillion of derivatives that can never be paid. And what we are doing, or the elites of this nation and the UK, is starting wars and funding wars. The military is perhaps the new bubble when we cannot fix a pothole, provide housing, get the rats out of the city. And I would have voted, so you know, in the Senate against the $95 billion of weapons that we just sent to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. And in case you didn't hear today, the spokesman for the Israeli military just said, we cannot have a total victory against Hamas, it's an ideology. So if there is not a peace plan, if there is not,
I'm not gonna do that here.
Shut up.
No,
Thank
shut
you.
up. You let them speak. They came here to speak. You wanna have a problem, go to Queens Village and pull that nonsense, all
You
right?
shut up, okay? You're not, you're.
Yeah, I'm what?
Let me just go ahead. These wars are not intended to end. And if you haven't figured that out, figure it out. Because that is the looting that's going on. Now, the other problem we have, which makes the debate questionable.
Gentlemen, gentlemen, Mr. Noble, please.
No, I'm not gonna let
Mr. Rinaldi.
I'm gonna take him outside if you don't stop.
Mr. Rinaldi, Mr. Noble, gentlemen, stop it! Okay? Or else I'm gonna get, and I get physical. But be quiet, we have a guest here, she's speaking, she deserves our attention. Thank you.
One of the virtues of this club is that most of the members support freedom of speech, which is something that is being trampled on. Now, the issue is that it doesn't even matter what you think, because at the moment, we do not have free elections. It is absolutely impossible that Joe Biden is leading by 2% or whatever they say. That is impossible. The guy is senile, it's obvious. I can tell you, when we were petitioning, my volunteers spoke with about 250,000 people. You could count the Biden supporters that you met in a day, even in Manhattan, on one hand. And the reason they were supporting Biden is what that gentleman brought up, which is Trump derangement syndrome. They don't support Biden. They're just been made so terrified of Trump that they think they have to support Biden. And the way they're trying to undermine Kennedy, as you may know, is that they're actually calling people who signed the petitions for Kennedy and saying, did you really mean to sign that petition? Did you know who you were signing for? Did you know that signing that petition could get Trump elected? Would you like to take your name off of that? So what, and that is the DNC. That's what I'm saying. It is a fascist organization. And the system stinks from top to bottom. So my campaign is dedicated to fighting this from top to bottom and bottom to top. To be transparent, to say what I think in spite of opposition. And the biggest issue is to rectify this blowout of the financial system. It is our insanity that has led to de-dollarization. People didn't all want to leave the dollar. They left the dollar because we put sanctions on them. We threw them off the SWIFT system. We said you can't trade. We are thinking, do you know what's gonna happen if we steal, as we are doing now, all of the Russian foreign currency assets and use them to rebuild Ukraine? No one will ever put money in, they'll never invest in American dollars or treasuries again. If you go to a bank and the bank steals your money and everyone finds out about it, do you think anyone's gonna put their money in that bank? So everything we do right now is destroying ourselves, and the people that we call our allies, we are destroying them too. So what I am saying is we have to face that this system is bankrupt. We have to put Wall Street, the Federal Reserve, through a kind of bankruptcy reorganization. I think the Federal Reserve needs to be replaced with a national bank. That's what the Constitution says. Hamilton wrote 2 gigantically long papers proving that. And then what? You have to make credit. Why do we have an economy? The economy is to serve the people. We are not supposed to be an appendage of a banking system where they just use us to run the money through. Look what's happening now. Look at someone, just the candidate here before talked about how much your taxes can increase. For what? How much has your home increased in value? What did you do? Add a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, and 5 tennis courts? Is that why your house increased in value? No, it's because we are bailing out a rotten system, and what matters is not money, it's the physical economy. Do you have enough electricity? Do you have clean drinking water? Do your pipes, are they still made of lead? The pipes in most of New York City are over 100 years old. The tunnels that go under the Hudson River are over 100 years old. An engineer told me that cast iron has a life of about a century. You get salt water. Everything we're looking at is beyond its expectancy. So if you want to do something that benefits the people of the United States, which is what our Constitution says the government is supposed to do, then you put these crooks and perverts, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't unique, out of business. Yes, if there's time, I'm sorry. You put them through bankruptcy and you make available credit to build probably 43,000 miles of high-speed rail. I think we need about 500 new nuclear power plants in this nation. We need water management. The Army Corps of Engineers has plans for decades that have been approved by Congress and never funded. There is no need when it rains for 15 minutes that you get flooded out and you can't drive anywhere. This is insane. So these things can be addressed. We know how to do it. But we have to stop playing the charade that we have an election. We don't have an election. We don't have an election. And you have to face it and we have to fight that. So that's it. I'll just stop right there.
Okay, thank you very much, Diane. Unfortunately, it is 9:42. we're going to end the meeting here. There's a 50-50 drawing. We have a total of, basically, unfortunately, $20 tonight for the winner. Mary Seidel has drawn the winner. Would you read the name of the ticket? And the winner of the $20 is ID, Isaiah Vega. All right, Isaiah, you won $20. Okay, now, so I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and second, second by Kathy. Your candidates are here. You're welcome to ask any questions. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
By the way, I am a people candidate to state Sunday as well as the Kaambo. So I'll be on the front.
It's Tuesday, it's the primary day, because they have to officially certify who's on the ballot by Wednesday. So the hearing is Tuesday. And the fact that someone even is running, and like the videos that he did on the New Hampshire primary, where he said, he told people, in other words, that the Democratic Party said that if I win the election, they're going to give all my votes to Biden. I mean, this is so important because people don't know it. They don't know it.
When the person that ran against Alvin Bragg, for example, he gets any publicity, you know what Alvin Bragg did today? Columbia University, all those students, he freed all those students, and the person who ran, there's so many times when the person runs, they don't give him publicity.
See you next time.
I know, I met Kennedy at his